Alright, second week of Premium Collection, so let's begin. So let's start off with Vanguard Insider's reveal of Gear Chronicle, Highbrow Steam Schlishma. Its skill is, auto once per turn when this card attacks, cost, bind a front row rear guard and turn a face down card from a G zone face up, and then choose up to 2 cards from the bind zone and call them to rear guard. And then all your front row units get plus 10 key power until the end of the turn. This skill alone already has so many combos with Time Leap because Time Leap binds cards just to go up a grade. We also have Steam Maidens, which also focuses with the bind zone. We got Chrono Fang Tiger that also focuses around the bind zone. And what's nice is that the cost says bind 1 card, so by default you have 1 target already. And comboing with a bunch of other cards, there is a potential with so many attacks here. But it can get crazier with the next skill, because Auto G Zone. At the end of the battle that your grade through a greater rear guard attack, if this card is face up, cost Soul Blast 1, bind that unit, call this card to rear guard. So basically, it's a Time Leap with your G Zone. Yep, even more shenanigan plays with this. So overall, it's just another good option for Gear Chronicle. It's basically your multi-attack engine and best work with Time Leap, of course, or any bind zone focused deck. Continuing off, Interdimensional Dragon History Vision Dragon. Its skill is, auto when placed on Guardian, cost, discard as many cards as you want until you reach at least grade 3, and then this card gets plus 20k shield until the end of that battle. But if your discarded total was grade 6, cost Counterblast 1, choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit until the end of that battle. So with at least 3 discards, plus the Heal Guardian by the way, that will be a PG. I mean, it's not too bad in general because that could still block those big ridiculous attacks. So I can only really say this is just a tech option if anything. And now for Tachi, we got Tyrannical Magnet Giga Nofuelo. First off, it has the Engorg ability, so meaning it eats your number of rear guards, with the skill of Auto Vanguard. When this unit becomes Engorg, cost Counterblast 1, turn a G card face up, and then choose the same number of rear guards as the number of cards you retired by this ability this turn. Until the end of the turn, they get plus 10 key power and plus this ability. Auto Rear Guard. Once per turn at the end of battle of this card attack, cost Soul Blast 1, stand this unit. So basically, you eat a certain number of rear guards, that's what Engorg means, and then you choose the same number to give them the Tidal Assault ability with a plus 10k. That could be ridiculous, especially you have to remember that Tachi gets benefits by getting eaten. So yeah, another pretty good option for Tachi. And then we go to Mortify Makis Legal Gardener. Its skill is, auto when put on Guardian Circle, retire as many rear guards as you want. This card gets plus 10k shield for each card retired with this cost, and then you draw 1 card for each unit with an equip gauge on it. Damn, this is just ridiculous because, like I said before, Tachi gets a lot of benefits from getting eaten, and plus equip gauges on top of that with some extra draws. Yeah, this could actually be really ridiculous. And now to Gold Paladin's Golden Knight of Glory Invarious. Its skill is, count Vanguard. All your rear guards placed by card ability this turn gets plus 5k. Really helps out because sometimes they just get called without booster and without extra power up, they could be lacking in attack. But the second skill, Auto Vanguard. Once per turn, when this card attacks, cost Counterblast 1, put all your rear guards to the bottom of the deck in any order, and then choose up to 2 cards from hand and call them to rear guard. If at least 4 were put back to the bottom of the deck, until the end of that battle, stand this unit and drive -2 until the end of the turn. The first restanding Vanguard for Gold Paladin. And I have to say, this kind of reminds me of V Salamone, because V Salamone wants you to call stuff on top of your specific rear guards, and this one just tells you to put them in the bottom, and basically still give even more attacks off. But yeah, overall, it's a really good option because any restanding Vanguard that is generic is obviously must run. And luckily, it doesn't need to be Unite either. Next, Golden Dragon Signified Dragon. Its skill is, auto when placed on Guardian, cost Soul Blast 1, look at the top 2 cards of the deck, and then choose up to 2 cards from among them and call them to Guardian. Discard the rest. If at least 1 grade 1 or greater unit was called, draw a card. Pretty good, at least it's not like Slimmy Flare where it requires you to have a rear guard to do something, and this does by default kind of activate the Unite ability if you do have that as your Vanguard. So it's just another option. And now to Grandblue Pirate King of Darkness Bartholomew. Its skill is, auto Vanguard. When this card attacks, cost Counterblast 1, choose up to 3 units with different names from your drop zone and call them to rear guard. And then those card units plus 5k to the end of turn. That's pretty good, especially when this card says on attack, meaning you get multi-attack off. On first stride, mind you. But the second skill makes it a pretty decent finisher. Count Vanguard. If your drop zone has 30 or more cards, when your opponent would call cards from their hand to Guardian, they must call 3 or more at the same time. Yeah, when your drop zone is filled with a lot of shit, well, you get the Super Battle Door effect, for 5 attacks at least. Just another good option like usual. Next, Moon Singing Diabotic Princess Oriana. Its skill is, auto when placed on Guardian, cost Counterblast 1, The attacking unit gets -1 crit into the end of the battle for every 10 cards in your drop zone. Well, minusing your opponent's crit can essentially be equivalent to a PG sometimes, so if your opponent has that one big ridiculous attack, damn. And getting 10 cards in the drop zone isn't really that hard, although for most Grandblue decks they want at least 20 from what I know. So it's a very good option. And then to another YouTuber reveal, we got Fighting Emperor Dragon Merciless Dragon. It looks like a Kagero unit, I'm not gonna lie, but apparently it's Nova Grappler. But anyway, the skill is Auto Vanguard. When your rearguard stands by a card ability, cost Counterblast 1, discard 2 cards from your hand, stand this unit, and if it was on your main phase, you can attack your opponent's Vanguard with this card. So basically it's like Beast Deity on your Stride unit. But before we continue off, second skill, Auto Vanguard, and the amount that this unit attacks, this unit gets drive -1 to end turn. This is because the first skill is not a once per turn. So every time that your rearguard stands back up, this card can stand back up for another swing. Which in Beast Deity's case, you can't do it in the main phase without much of an issue. But even for non-Beast Deity decks, you do have restanding rearguards that could stand up their own, so this card can become a restanding Vanguard for pretty much any Nova Grappler deck as well. Yeah, it will be rearguard reliant, but many Nova Grappler cards already have restanding abilities, so definitely worth running. Next, Meteor Kagero Stiff Ned, which its skill is Auto, when placed on Guardian, cost Counterblast 1 or more cards. This card gets plus 5k shield for every face down card in your damage zone. And then if you counterblast at least 2 cards, you draw a card. If you counterblast 3 or more, draw another card. So basically this card just becomes stronger in the late game. Overall, it's not bad, especially you do have decent countercharging in Nova Grappler. And then another YouTuber reveal, this time for Bermuda, Radiant Ocean Heltruda. Its skill is Auto Vanguard. When this card attacks, cost discard 3 cards from your hand, return all other cards from your circles other than your Vanguard to your hand, and then choose 2 cards from your hand and call them to rearguard. And then at the end of the battle, cost Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, put this card to your G zone face up, and then choose one of your Vanguards and stand it. So basically it's like a next stage but with some extra abilities. Got you. The main downside is that you do have to have 3 cards beforehand to be able to bounce everything for even more attacks. But considering that Bermuda can easily bounce a bunch of stuff, this shouldn't be much of an issue. So in many ways you could call this much more restrictive than next stage but with some extra abilities on top of it. And then to Diva of Salvation Lawrence. Its skill is Auto, when placed on Guardian, cost Counterblast 1, return a normal unit on the rearguard back to your hand, and then perform the ability depending on what grade that card had. 2 or less, this unit gets plus 15k shield in the end of battle. 3 or more, choose one of your Vanguards, and then it gets plus 5k power to the end of the turn. The bounce isn't bad because bouncing can activate abilities, and in some cases that can be another guard value. And giving your Vanguard an extra 5k power for the rest of the turn can be very helpful for defensive measures. So tech this in if you wish. And finally to the last clan for this one, that being Kagero, Divine Dragon Knight Bearcat. Its skill is Auto Vanguard. When this card attacks, cost turn a face down card from your G zone face up, and then if your opponent has 3 or more open rearguards, this card gets plus 10k power, 1 crit, and 1 drive into the end of that battle. If there are 5 or more open rearguards, all your rearguards also get plus 10k into the end of the turn. Honestly though, there are better options than this. Zomboss is definitely better if your opponent has the field anyway, and even if you're talking about your opponent having less cards on the field, there is cards like Dumjid Valor and Ziegenberg. So the only thing I could really see for this is like Exterminate Dragon, where it's a first stride when your opponent doesn't really have much of a field presence. Because if you look at it, Dumjid still requires your opponent to have less rearguards than you, but it's a more finisher type card. And that goes for the same for Ziegenberg. So really, it's there to punish your opponent for not having a field presence on a first stride usually. Finally, Blaze Dragon Died Selima. Its skill is Auto, when placed on Guardian, cost Soul Blast 1, discard 4 cards in your hand, and then choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit until the end of that battle. But the discard cost is reduced by 1 for every of your opponent's open rearguards. Well, another one of these G guards that is practically useless if your opponent has a full field. Although at the same time, it isn't too bad for your opponent to be calling stuff to the field because that's what you want. You want to retire your opponent's stuff. So this is an okay G guard, especially to nullify your opponent's attack. Sometimes they are just extremely huge that you discarding 4 cards is actually much more worth it than throwing even more cards. So I'll take it. So that's it for these premium collection cards. What do you guys think of them? Like usual, they're just much more decent options for you to run. Not all of them are super insane or anything, and some of them are better depending on the deck. But overall, it's nothing too special, just more options. But other than that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.